You've heard a little bit about my background and my passions, but I grew up in East Central Alberta on a farm where I used to go gather the cows at 6 in the morning for breast of milk. I was always taken by the blue sky and nature, so two of my passions. The third one is energy. I spent most of my business career running 3 different public companies in the energy space. And when I sold the last one in 2007, I invested in the hydrogen business, which is, I guess you could say, a clean fuel. And I've driven a hybrid for 10 years. I'm very passionate about energy efficiency and not wasting it, and doing it as cleanly, burning energy as cleanly as we can. So through my understanding of hybrid vehicles, and my understanding of energies and BTUs and molecules and electrons, I've been able to come through, or to some conclusions, which I'd like to share with you. And this has been about 3 years worth of research, I guess, and this is information all available on the web, but I've put my own conclusions to that. Now, okay, so I believe we're going back to blue skies in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And we're going to move away. We're not going away from GHG focus, but we're moving to look at smog a lot closer. And, you know, in China, the people have trouble breathing the air there. So, and in Europe, some of the cities are very polluted, and I'll speak about that. And California, I would say, is leading the space in North America and moving to zero-emission electric vehicles. It's to reduce urban smog, as well as to meet the 80% GHG reduction. But my talk will deal on some facts that I don't think a lot of people know. The US and Canada have, our auto manufacturers have what we call CAFE regulations, corporate average fleet efficiency. So when they sell their fleet of vehicles, it's got to meet a certain standard. And that standard's going to reach 54.5 miles per US gallon by 2025. That's 10 years from now. Not very far out. France is working to eliminate diesel vehicles in their major cities by 2020. And this they announced about a year ago, before the Volkswagen scandal, the diesel scandal. California, Jerry Brown is moving to lead California to reduce petroleum or gasoline consumption by 50% by 2030. You know, you could buy the largest Mercedes that Daimler makes, the S500, and it's part electric. And when it's running on electric, it gets 84 miles to the US gallon. That model came out a year and a half ago. In China, are following the European standards for their mileage standards, and they're going to reach 48 miles per US gallon by 2020. And of course, we know Tesla has changed the view about electric vehicles. So here's a slide on corporate average fleet efficiency. And you know, this standards, regulations were brought in the 70s when the price of oil went from 3 to 12 to 12 to 36. And you know, the standards never moved for 25 years. It wasn't till about 2010 that they started improving or requiring manufacturers to improve their mileage efficiency. And you can see how steep the curve is. But we're going to be burning a lot less fuel with new vehicles than not too distant future. Okay, now, you know, the rest of the world got going with improving their global emissions in about 2000, and you know, with us changing the CAFE standards in North America, we were, I'm going to say, 8 or 10 years behind them. But you can see how this has been evolving. You know, we've got, you know, all of the different countries on there: Japan, China, India, you know, and Canada's on the right there. You can see by 2025 is when we're going to catch up to the rest of the world. Now, when you get to that 2025 standard, the amount of fuel you're going to save over the life of the vehicle is estimated to be about $8,000. So, you know, that's a pretty nice savings. So there's got consumer economics in there. It's not just a cost. And what does that mean for the amount of fuel we're going to save? Well, the U.S. currently uses about 9 million barrels a day for transportation of personal vehicles. So by 2025, demand for that will be down by 2.2 million barrels a day. You know, it takes about 10 years to change over the fleet. So by 2035, we're going to be saving 4 million barrels a day. Now, remember I mentioned that the rest of the world's standards started changing ahead of North America's. And, you know, the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute tracks the mileage of new vehicles that get sold every year. And they've tracked that since 2007. And they know that the amount of fuel now, less amount of petroleum being burnt for the 2015 model year, about 500,000 barrels a day. So we've well started on that path of the 2.2 and then the 4, because other global standards changed ahead of ours. Okay, so now how does the CAFE work relative to when you go buy a vehicle at, you know, off the dealer's lot? What you will see in your sticker mileage is about 75% of the CAFE regulations, but regardless, it's still a doubling your mileage efficiency. And, you know, here's a slide I took from a BP Economic Outlook last year. They show demand of petroleum in North America going down by about 5 million barrels a day, so they see this coming. Now, here's my number 2 point. Paris, a year ago, announcing they're looking to eliminate diesel vehicles by 2020. So vehicles are going to have some form of electric mobility because France is 80% diesel. And, you know, diesel cars emit a lot of particulate matter and NOx, which is what we've seen with this Volkswagen scandal. You know, Europeans improved their emissions substantially, yet their smog was getting worse. And it's because in about 2000, they started incentivizing people to buy diesel cars because they burn less fuel, but they put out a lot more pollution. And they're about to change that now. California have said they're going to reduce gasoline consumption by 50%. Here's a shot of LA. Lots of smog. We see this in Calgary many days. Driving back from Canmore into Calgary, you see the smog. Here is when Jerry Brown got reelected, the first thing he did was brought this out as one of his mandates. I don't even think he had to bring this out because the CAFE standards are changing. We're going to get better mileage efficiency, so we are going to that 50% less. Everybody is. California is also working with 8 states on zero-emission vehicles. So those are electric or fuel cell vehicles or a plug-in hybrid. So how are we going to get there in these new standards? Well, I've driven a hybrid for 10 years. Conventional hybrid vehicles gives you a 50% improvement in mileage. It's like free energy. You pay for the battery and the regenerator, but it's a substantial improvement in your mileage. Now, what's even better than the hybrid is the plug-in hybrid. So these vehicles that have just started to come out give you about 25 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles of electric transportation. So in urban spaces, you can drive to work, you can run most of your errands on electricity. Guess what? There's nothing coming out your tailpipe. And wireless charging is coming in too. Toyota did some research that shows you can eliminate 80% of your gasoline usage just with a plug-in hybrid. Not going to a pure electric, but just going to a plug-in hybrid. Here's the Mercedes vehicle, came out a year and a half ago, 84 miles to the US gallon on electric. Wireless charging. I don't know how many of you have a wireless toothbrush, wireless phone charging. It's coming to cars. It's here already. Volvo just came out with this vehicle. That's my next hybrid vehicle. It's good for about 25 miles on pure electric. I think it's going to be here February. I ordered it 15 months ago. And at the Detroit Auto Show here this month, Chrysler has announced the plug-in hybrid van. Beautiful van. Germany is all over this space. The 3 German car companies, I would say, are leading the space in terms of bringing out plug-in hybrid vehicles and these and trying to take this to the marketplace ahead of everybody else. Here's the vehicle they figure they're going to have in 2025 on pure emission-free driving. Fuel cell, instead of gasoline for your other engine, it's a fuel cell with hydrogen. So totally emission-free driving down the highway. China is focused on clean energy vehicles as one of their platform. Of course, we know that the air is very polluted in China. China are shutting down coal plants outside of Beijing. Here's Audi announcing November 19th of 2014, saying they're going to have 20 electric or plug-in hybrid models in China by 2018. In Canada, you can get a Ford Ford Fusion vehicle on pure gasoline. In the city, it gets 22 miles to the gallon. You get a plug-in hybrid good for about 20 miles, gets 88 miles to the gallon. That's like a 300% improvement in your mileage. It's not just for cars, it's for buses too. This bus I showed you goes 30 miles on a charge. They put rapid chargers that can recharge the bus in 3 to 10 minutes, right where all the buses congregate and change routes. You get 24 miles to the gallon instead of 3 to 4 with diesel. 500% improvement, and they're testing fuel cell version models which allow you to go a longer distance. So, you know, this is a big part of cleaning up the skies. So technology is changing and is evolving the personal transportation mobility, and I think that with the consumer economics attached to it, wireless charging, it's a no-brainer it's not an inconvenience for the consumer. So the Volkswagen scandal that happened just recently, you know, Europe has been wondering why their smog has been getting worse when their emission standards were supposed to be getting better. 2 reasons. In Europe, the cars are not tested by governments. You can actually hire a private company to test your vehicle and say, oh yeah, this meets the standard. And their independent testing is finding out that it's not just Volkswagen, but a lot of the manufacturers are not achieving the standards by 40%. And they're mostly diesel. They're 53% diesel in Europe, and that's why they're getting more smog. This is about to change here very quickly by 2017. So anyways, you know, France have admitted even before the Volkswagen scandal that this was a mistake, going to diesel. So in summary, I see the new vehicle technologies is already here to beat the 2025 standards. Matter of fact, you can get to like 80, 90 miles to the gallon. China is going to lead this mass consumer change or evolving into electric vehicles. Oil demand I see going down in North America by 4 billion barrels a day and 15 to 20 million worldwide, just going with this change. That's not assuming mass electrification. It would be double that if you went to pure electric vehicles. Anyways, there's the evolving of our vehicle fleet, and we're going back to blue skies.